Hello and welcome to another episode of 207 Aikido. Today I want to talk to you about connection and the atemiwaza, and specifically a thought I had about Gyaku Gamayate, which in my mind is a little bit different than Shomanate and Aigamayate, not just because it's the opposite hand and foot, but also because there's two different types of connections that you can make with Gyaku. In practice, we often found that Eric would be showing people one version of Gyaku, and I would be showing people another. And the way that I always broke this down was one was a close motion and one was a far motion. And to some degree that's true. But another way I think you can think about the difference between Eric's Gyaku and my Gyaku is that one is a lifting Gyaku and the other is a sinking Gyaku. So if I can grab, Danny, if I can grab you, and I'll show first how I used to explain the difference. This is going to be Eric's version, and I'm not going to do it as well as Eric does. But in Eric's version, it's very much a structured throw, and it happens generally farther away from uke. I'll just do it against the chest here. He's going to have structure, the hand is going to be connected to the hip, and he's going to drive through. There. Now, my favorite version of Gyaku is to come in here and then to sink. So, each of these versions has a certain amount of rotation and a certain amount of forward motion. For Danny, it's pretty similar. He's going to get displaced by about this much, and then he's going to get sunk. Or actually, we'll get into this a little bit later. But in each version, he's going to be displaced this much. In Eric's version, it's this snow plow. So in terms of how much Tori rotates, it's not very much. 1 degree, 2 degrees, 3 degrees. Here and then in. Because Danny's at the end of the lever. But in my version, there's a lot of rotation. Maybe there's 40 degrees of rotation. Same amount of displacement for Danny, but there's a lot more rotation for me. So that's how I used to explain the difference between my Gyaku and Danny's Gyaku. But then on vacation, I was thinking about different types of connection. And one thing I've been saying a lot is that connection is always parallel to this structure. So if we're talking about Kotegaeshi, I'm either going to be connected this way, where we're parallel, or this way, where our arms are parallel again. I'm not going to be connected here, where we're perpendicular. That's not going to be helpful. And what I was thinking about was, well, Shoman's the same. I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to be most effective, or this is Aigamai, where my arm is parallel to Danny's spine. And then I thought, but is Gyaku different? Because this version is like that Aigamai I just showed, where I'm trying to get almost parallel to Danny's spine and throw. But in this version, I'm trying to get parallel this way. So tonight, we talked about the throws as an up version and a down version. So with the up version, I'm getting parallel, and then I'm almost lifting Danny's heels off the ground. And with the down version, I'm trying to sink the heels into the ground. Now you'll notice I did those far away and close. But you can also practice these lifting and sinking in the opposite positions. So I can get close, where normally my preference would be to sink, and I can lift. Or I can be far away, where normally the preference would be to lift here, and I could sink. So I can get here and sink. And this was my favorite one to play with because it's tough. But let's say I'm setting this up with an atemi. He goes back. Now, pinky connects to the far foot, thumb connects to the close foot, and you throw like that. So, I don't know how practical that technique is, but it's fun to play with, and it's a good way to really work on the connection here. So give those a shot and play around with how you're connecting and in which way you're parallel to the spine. I'm pretty sure you always are going to want to be parallel to the spine in the atemiwaza, but with some of them you could be parallel going up or going down. So experiment with that, and we'll see you next time.